my name is Michelle, and this is my sister Lois. And Oaklawn Center on Aging asked us to come out today and show you one of our homemade recipes.
I want to be able to teach you today, along with Michelle, how to make our grandmother's homemade chicken soup recipe. So let's begin.
Let's do it.
All right. I guess it would help if we had the chicken.
Okay. Always a healthy start.
Always a healthy start.
So we've written down the recipe for you afterwards, so you don't have to write anything down. You'll be able to get all that stuff afterwards. So we have some chicken that we already bought from the store, which we cut, and we bought it already cut up. So it's a whole chicken and already completely cut up. And then we also have some baby carrots, and we get the baby carrots because they're already shredded, and all we have to do is just cut them up. And then we also buy some celery sticks. And we say in the recipe you can use as much or as little of these ingredients as you would like to. We also use a parsnip that we completely peel.
That adds the sweetness to the soup.
And then we also use an onion that we're gonna put in there whole, but we're gonna peel it first. So, and then some dill.
Give it a little zing.
And some salt and pepper. So
Terrific.
are we gonna get busy cutting up?
We're going to get busy. So Michelle's going to start to slice up some vegetables, and I'm going to take our chicken just as it is, put it in the pot over on the stove, and I'm going to add 3 quarts of water to the pot. While Michelle is doing all that cutting and chopping.
Now you can make these as big or as small as you want. That's the great thing about this recipe. Put as much or as little, as big or small.
And actually, if it's too much to stand and do all that and do your cooking, you could chop your vegetables up in advance, stick them in baggies.
Or get somebody else to chop them up for you.
Yeah, there you go. That's my favorite way of doing it.
I'm just gonna add a couple more here. You wanna be nice and careful with your fingers when you're doing the cutting. Boom. All right, and I'm just gonna set them aside here and just grab a couple stalks of celery. We've already washed everything, so it's easy to
And while
use.
Michelle is doing that, I'm going to turn the pot with the water on to get ready to boil on high. And I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of better than bouillon. I just prefer this method. However, any chicken bouillon cube will work. There is a little bit of light seasoning in the bouillon, so it adds a little extra flavor to the soup. That's why we use it. And then when we're done, you'll get to see how golden it helps to make the soup when you're ready to decant it and put it in your containers. Okay, now we've got our bouillon added to the chicken, and we're gonna wait until this boils, and then once it boils, we're gonna give it a good 5 minutes to keep boiling so that bouillon starts to melt into the water and chicken.
All right.
Where are you at, Michelle, with
I
your
cut up
preparations?
my celery, and I cut up some carrots.
I think we need a little more of each of those.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna try and make at least 4, maybe 6 servings. So
Okay.
you wanna make sure that you have enough celery and carrot.
I cut up 3. How many more do you think you
I
should?
think 2 more is
Okay.
plenty. I know I like a lot of veggies in mine, but again, you can do this to your taste. That's the beauty of these old grandma recipes. Nothing was written down. So as you go along, you
Just
can
make it up.
tweak it a little bit if you
I
like.
just kind of throw away the ends.
Michelle and I were laughing today when we typed up the recipe, because we've both been making this for over 50 years. It's never been written down before.
Yeah. We had to really talk it out too.
We did. We had to really talk it through. What did she used to
This
do?
is a
How do
big
you
one.
do it? And we both had our own little variations on it. So feel free to make
big
any
one.
variation
You can add anything else that
you
might
think
like.
makes sense.
Okay,
That
probably
looks good.
Good enough.
All right. Now she's going to cut the ends off the onion and peel it. So you just have 1 whole onion. That's what we're going to add. And while you're doing that, I think I'm going to peel the parsnip for
Okie
you.
dokie.
Okay.
Perfect.
Remember, this is just for sweetness. You're actually gonna throw the parsnip out afterwards. At least that's what Grandma did.
Yeah,
Some people I understand really like a parsnip, so
right.
feel
Now,
free to
both
eat
of
that
us
if you
usually
like.
throw our onion out afterwards, but you can keep it and cut it back up and put it back into the soup if you'd like, or you can use it for something else if you'd like. That's completely up to you. And the recipe also makes kind of a lot of extra chicken. So you may find that you have more chicken than you have enough for your soup. So you can use that to make chicken salad or, add it into any dish that you're making. So that's nice and easy. And here we go.
Okay, and you'll just cut the ends off the parsnip,
Okay.
and we'll be all set.
And then how many pieces of dill do you take out and put in? I know you don't.
I do 2 or 3 sprigs out of fresh dill that you purchase at the grocery store. Michelle got this at Walmart today.
Easy.
Very easy.
And then now we just gotta wait for the water to boil.
And that could take a good 5 minutes. So should we tap dance?
Would you like to tap dance for everyone out there? Because you sure can. We'll let you.
Yeah, it's
not
hard.
good to
It's
do
hard
that.
in tennis to tap dance.
So can I serve this with anything? Sometimes I like to have like noodles or something with my chicken soup, but this might be hearty enough. I don't know.
Yeah, you can do many different things. So at my house, my husband is Asian, so he likes rice. And so I always have a bucket of rice in my refrigerator already made. So you can just throw some rice into the soup if you'd like, or if you want to make some noodles on the side, you can make noodles and put in there. I would suggest some smaller noodles. You don't want a big, thick noodle in there. And you also don't really want to leave the rice in the soup. Like, you want to put the rice in the soup now because
When you're eating
it will soak it up. So you only want to put the rice in when you want to eat it.
When you're ready to eat.
Yeah,
Heat
because
the-
even if rice is cooked, it still soaks up the juice.
Should I go ahead and heat my rice separately from my soup so that they're both warm? Like if I had it in the refrigerator?
What I do is we're going to put them in these smaller containers, and then I can freeze these. And so then when I'm ready to eat them, I'll take it out and I'll thaw it out. And so then it'll still be cold, and then I'll add half of it so it's for me and my husband. This makes 2 servings. So I'll put half each in a bowl, and then I'll put some rice in there, and then I'll put it in the microwave. And we always cover it in the microwave, and then I put it on like a soup setting to warm it up so that it warms it up slowly instead of doing it, so just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But it still only takes a few minutes.
So you're saying the rice is cold when you add it to
It
the
is.
bowl, and then you
Now,
heat
once
it
in a
together
while,
with
once
soup.
in a while, I do have to make the rice at the same time, and so I don't reheat the rice in the microwave because it's already hot.
Okay.
So if you're doing it like that, then you already have it. But sometimes we just eat that as a meal, period. For dinner, we'll just have the soup and the rice and maybe some bread.
Now my husband and I will have the chicken on the first night that we make it. We'll have chicken salad. We'll put that on toast, and then we have a soup and salad that way.
So
I mean, a soup and sandwich that
So
way.
tell me, what do you put in your chicken salad? Because I know everybody's interested. I know we're doing chicken soup, but
You're
Chicken
gonna
salad
have chicken
starter.
left over, so you might
Right.
as well.
We're big on the mayo here in this household.
Okay.
Lots of mayo, so shred that chicken really well. Lots of mayo, and we are relish people. Now, not everybody likes, relish. We happen to be big relish fans. I know you and Jack are not relish fans.
so I don't. I just put salt and pepper in mine and
Okay.
mayo.
So we could use that reduced fat light mayo that we use for
That's
healthy
actually
cooking.
what I do. I use that olive oil mayo,
Oh, okay.
which is
Okay.
really,
Right.
much help. Any way you make mayo, it's not
Yeah.
super healthy, but try and make that reduced fat or
Right.
olive oil mayo is a much healthier
So
option.
sometimes I've actually taken some chicken salad and I will put it on English muffins. So I'll lightly toast an English muffin, very lightly, because you just want it to be a little bit warm. And then I'll put the chicken salad and maybe a little bit of cheese over it, and then I'll put it in the broiler for like 2 minutes, and then let it, eat.
Oh,
and
you've
then we
been
have
hiding that treat from
for-
me. That sounds fabulous.
So-
And we'll have that for lunch as just separate, not part of having the soup at all.
So maybe our viewers might even go a step farther and say that they would take your chicken salad and the avocado toast with the tomato and the cheese
Oh, yes.
and put that all together.
Absolutely.
Because they already have the avocado toast recipe, and they could just make their own chicken salad from this, and that would be a great
I'm
dinner.
gonna have to look up your avocado toast recipe.
Yeah. Oh, did,
That
all
sounds
right. Well,
She's a big avocado
well.
toast girl.
So avocado toast recipe is on our
So,
Facebook
if
page.
you want to come on over
Sure.
here, we can just
Are we
kinda see
boiling?
where we're at. I don't know how long we've been doing it,
We
but
have not even been quite 5 minutes, but see, it's beginning
starting to
to
boil.
boil. And I like to just take my spoon and kind of just check and see.
and this
Yep,
kind
the
of breaks up the
bouillon's all
bouillon.
dissolved.
Yeah, make sure the bouillon's all dissolved.
Okay, and you'll see
Okay.
the water starting to get that soft,
Color, yellow color.
yellow color to it. I've also taken a tomato and kind of cut it
Like a flour,
and-
sort
like
of.
a flour, and put a scoop of chicken salad in that too, like you get in a restaurant.
All right, so are we ready
Fancy.
for the vegetados?
I would say we're gonna let it boil
Couple more minutes.
a couple more minutes because
Okay.
it looks like it's taking a little extra moment here.
You can do that.
That's the beautiful part about something like this. Like I said, for 50 years we've been making it without a recipe, so we've gotten to the point where we can just tell.
Yeah.
Not that that's a great recipe tip,
Right.
but
But one thing we did
can
not mention
tell.
in the beginning was it's going to take about 3 hours to make, 2.5, 3 hours, making the whole recipe. So you want to make sure that you have enough time to. That's just the cooking and the boiling part of it, and then it's going to take another 30 minutes or so to shred the chicken and put it in each thing. So just want to make sure if you're going to make it that you've saved enough time during the day. I'll do it on a Saturday. I'll put it on and do a bunch of stuff around the house and just keep checking on it. And then we have it for lunch or dinner,
and don't let the time amount that it takes throw you off and say, no, I don't want to tackle this. Because it is something you're going to be able to freeze and keep. I
Yeah.
find whenever my husband's sick, I just go defrost one of the chicken soups and make sure that he has that
Yeah.
good old remedy,
Yeah.
good old
Yeah.
chicken soup.
Or if we have nothing to eat, I always have. That's why I put it in these small containers. So at Walmart, you can buy, there's these 4, they have multiple sizes. So you can pick whatever size you want if you want to do a container for 4. But this usually is about 2 serving sizes. Like I said, container for, I think they cost $2.50. So it's a nice, inexpensive way. And then you can we'll let the broth cool some before we put it in here, and then I let it cool a little bit more, and then I just stick it right into the freezer. So they go in the freezer and the refrigerator, both of those things. So that's what I love about these, and that they're inexpensive enough that when they start to crack and break, you can toss them
And start with
and
new
start
ones.
with fresh ones. So
All right, now the soup looks like it's really, this is what I was waiting
Right.
for. You'll notice that the scum from the chicken
Yes.
starts to
Fat,
rise
yeah.
to the top. And you do want to make sure that you get rid of a lot of that scum. That's the yucky part that we're cooking out. So I have this just cute little strainer. And I just take a cup with a handle, because when you're putting that hot stuff in there, you don't want to be holding the cup. You want something with a handle so that you don't get any of that hot. And you'll see, as I go, we're starting to get some of that scum off the top. These little strainers you can buy anywhere. Walmart. I wish I could tell you where I got mine. I must have had it for the last 30 years. And I bet if you all look in your kitchens, you're going to find you already own one. Okay. Now, we've gotten most of that scum out of there.
And how long are we going to do this for? Do you think the scum comes up for?
It comes up maybe another 5 minutes, but I did purposely put it on a really rolling boil so that it would come up a little quicker. And you'll also see this really golden area here. That's the beginning of the chicken fat. That's the thing that gives it the taste.
You don't want to scoop that out.
But try not to scoop that part out. That's the good stuff. Chicken fat, like bacon fat, it's the taste. That's what adds the taste. I'm gonna turn this down to a medium because Michelle's gonna add all the vegetables now.
I'm gonna bring the board over here. 'cause
And the
it'll be
reason we
easier.
turn it down when you do that is because we don't want you to get splashed with that hot boiling water.
Yeah, so you gotta
when
be
you're adding your
very,
ingredients.
very careful when you're adding this. Okay. Parsnip, and I'm just gonna gently like set it in, and then we're just gonna use a spoon or something to move it around. Same thing with the onion. Oh, already peeled it. Just gently drop it in there, and then squish it around so that it has a home under the water.
That's a nice home you made for it,
Yeah,
Michelle.
there we go. That's the home I wanted to make for it. I want to get a little bit more in there. Now I'm going to use my spoon and kind of scoop these and put them in here with my hand in that. Just nice and gentle so that they don't splash all over the place because it's already hot. You saw a rolling boil going. And then we have couple other things that we didn't do, which was the salt and pepper.
Which we're gonna
Which
do.
we're
once
gonna
we get this
add
added.
right after this, which we just say to your taste. I put a bunch in mine and then I always end up putting some more salt in when I go to eat it.
For those of you on a low sodium diet, there's light salt, or you may leave the salt out, because if you're on a low sodium diet, you're not used to having that in your food.
At all.
And it's certainly acceptable. We both were brought up in a household where if a little salt is good, then a lot is better.
And don't forget, the Better Than Bouillon does have quite a bit of salt flavor to it.
Yes.
So
Good
if you have to watch your salt intake, go ahead and use the bouillon and forget the salt.
Right.
Exactly.
And then you can salt it to your taste after
Yeah.
you've made the soup, and then you can see if you need any salt.
And there have been plenty of times that I've forgotten to put the salt in.
I haven't done that.
Yeah, but we all always forgotten one important thing when you're making a recipe. And then, of course, a little pepper. I'm not a pepper fan, so I don't put much in.
Yeah, because this
But
is
again,
another
to
thing
your
that.
taste.
But there's another thing you can add in afterwards if you feel like you need some pepper. Oopsie.
And I love to add those couple of sprigs of dill. I will tell you, not only does it add just a slight little bit to the flavor of the soup, the best part about making this is your whole house smells like amazing chicken soup all day long. Sort of like if you were making cookies or an apple pie.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And that is how you make it. And then we're just gonna let it sit here and boil. Well, we're gonna do medium to medium low and let it boil for probably 2.5 to 3 hours. What you really wanna see is the chicken getting soft and then it turning this golden color over here.
Like our completed bowl.
All right, so through the magic of television, we're gonna come on over here and then here's what it looks like and see how I just easily am touching this chicken breast and it's just falling right apart. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it so that we can put it in the individual containers that we talked about. So first thing we wanna do is we wanna take the chicken out and just set it aside in a bowl. And do you have some tongs or something like that? Okay, bam. Do you have $1 million handy too?
No.
Oh, okay. So just gently take the chicken, throw it into a side bowl. Yummy.
You know, that chicken can stay very hot for a long time after you've turned the soup off. After we've cooked, we like to turn the soup off and let it sit on the stove for a good half hour or so, just so that it has a chance to cool down, because remember, it's been boiling and simmering for hours. So you want to be careful that you don't hurt yourself by it being too hot. Now see, Michelle has removed all of the chicken and we've placed it aside so that it can continue to cool. Now,
right, because we
Michelle.
gotta shred this chicken up to put it into the soup in a minute. So
Yes.
now we've got the
So you could
trash.
put your parsnip in here.
Okay.
Again, we're parsnip trash people. Not everybody is. And Michelle, if you'll just put that whole onion in here.
there,
My
okay.
husband's an onion lover.
So he'll do something with this
He'll
onion.
do something with that onion.
If you like the onion, cut it up and put it into the soup.
And
It's better to cook it whole and then cut it up, because if you cut it up beforehand and put it in there, then they just kind of dissolve into nothing. They kind of dissolve away. All right. So now really we're left with broth and the vegetables, which were the carrots and the celery. So now we're going to strain these out. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can take the whole thing and strain it and put it into a big pitcher and then pour it into the smaller containers. I think that might be a little bit easier to do. So I think that's what we're going to do today. Is we're going to, okay, and my lovely assistant is holding the strainer.
Thank you, your lovely
Beautiful,
assistant is.
beautiful. So we're just going to gently, I do this over my sink for that very reason. So here, lessons learned, people. Lessons learned. Set it down on the thing and then move
And
it.
let me move the
Thank you.
faucet out of
Okay.
the way.
And then here we go. For that exact reason,
Yeah, you know, move it.
okay, there it goes. So you see, all right, you know what? There's a lot of soup in there. So
Okay.
let's take that out real quick.
All right. Do you want me to begin to?
Yeah.
Let's line up a couple of these containers to make it easy. Michelle, would you mind just
Yeah, not at all.
notice the golden color of the soup? And we fill our containers about half to 3/4 of the way full, because you're going to add vegetables and chicken to this, so that you really get a whole meal out of it.
Excellent.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, 2 down. Several more to go. You'll notice that I used this pitcher with a
Handle.
spout and a handle, again, so it's easy to add.
And then we'll get all that soup and veggies out in there. Beautiful. One lone carrot.
So we made a half recipe here, so it would be easy to show you how we prepare it and how we finish it.
Right. So, you know, I'll add a little bit more to this first one here. So you can see if you make the entire recipe, you're going to get at least 6 of these out of it. And it's 2 servings per, so, you know, that's 12 meals. And we suggest if you're going to put it in the fridge, if you're going to have one meal and then save it for a couple of days, you should, you know, eat it within 3 days, you know.
And the rest you
And the rest?
put in the freezer.
And then
Do you
what
want a
we're gonna
spoon?
do is, yeah, and we're just gonna take a spoon and just spoon and then kind of just individually spoon it out depending on how much of this you want in each one. Again, it's your personal preference. You like a lot, you like a little, and don't worry about it. Toss them or use them for something else. Da, 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 da.
I'm
Yeah,
a big
that's
veggie
probably
eater,
good.
so I load it up, but no,
You
that
do
looks
what you
great.
want.
That looks great.
And add more later.
Yeah.
And then now, here comes the fun part.
Okay, Michelle. There's your fun part.
I'll get my own fork and we can both do it.
Okay, great.
It'll go a little faster that way. So obviously you want to peel the skin off. You don't want to put the skin in there, but we're just going to start, you know, kind of going in here. I just used my hands. I washed my hands, but she's going to eat this anyway.
Oh,
And then I just
typical
kinda,
sister. It's
yeah.
okay if she uses her hands.
And then I just, you know, we throw a bunch of chicken in here, but we want to have a nice ratio between the broth, the vegetables, and the chicken, especially if you're going to add some rice or something to it. You know, you want to have a good amount of broth in there. I always end up overloading it with chicken because there is always extra chicken. So like we said, then just use that for something else.
We're chicken salad fans.
Yeah. But you can make a Greek salad and throw it in there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you can make all kinds of different salads and put them in there.
Agreed.
See, chicken's still a little warm, I was just gonna say, so you just wanna be careful about when you do it. I mean, this can sit out for a little while and cool off. Sometimes I actually take the chicken and put it on a cooling rack so that it can kind of get warm, cooled off from all sides.
And absolutely use some of the dark meat too. Remember that dark meat is the thing that's got the fat and the extra flavor.
True.
So you don't necessarily need to
So
use
good.
all just white meat. Please feel free to add. There's plenty of white meat here.
Yeah, there's a
Looks
lot
like we
left.
could all have chicken salad sandwiches for our second lunch
Right.
of the day.
There you go.
I think actually there's plenty in these if you look at them here. So kind of pick it up, and we might even have a little bit too much stuff in here. We could probably use a little more broth in this one, but it's still going to be good. So this is probably a really good ratio here.
Okay. And again, we're not onion fans, but you could take pieces of this onion and add it to each.
Yeah. And then what I would do is take these and put them on a cooling rack, like a baking cooling rack, just so that it can cool off all the way around it before you put it in the into the freezer. So if this was me, one of these I'd take aside and I'd be eating that tonight for dinner, and then the other two I'm going to put in the freezer.
So hopefully each of you will get one of those and you can eat
yes.
chicken
And have
soup
dinner
for tonight.
I know, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
And
what's
so-
going to happen is when the second batch is done, I'll be packaging that up just like we did this one. And I guess I'm going to have to split it with her.
Probably. She helped you. She
And
helped
see
you.
how
did a
nice
lot,
it is.
so.
They stack really nicely, and they also come in smaller sizes too. So if you don't want that, I just find that's a good size because it's kind of 2 servings in one.
So let me ask you, after they're frozen,
Yes.
are we going to see the fat from the chicken kind of rise to the top? And
Yes,
we
you
want to
will.
leave that on
question.
there. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's the
That's
flavor.
a really great
That
point,
chicken
because what'll
flat, that's
happen is
flavor.
you'll have a ring of that fat around the inside here, and when you make it, you're going to want to take your spoon and you're going to want to take that and put it into the soup.
Right.
You want to make sure you put that fat back. Everything that's in here, you want to go back in that bowl when you're warming it up. Please don't warm up the soup in these plastic bowls. That's not okay. So what I
Put it in a saucepan.
yeah, what I
Right.
usually do is I will take it out of the freezer, and if I'm, want it to make sure that it gets frozen, then I will put it in some cold water for a little while
I mean defrost.
to defrost it, and then if I can feel like the block of ice in there that I can get it out of there, then I put it in the saucepan and heat it up.
Okay.
Or you can put it in a bowl that's microwavable and just put it into the microwave and heat it up. Either way. But you definitely do not want to use these plastic bowls for that.
So I just want to let everybody know that's watching this, we're not going to be posting nutritional value on this soup. What I do want you to pay particular attention to is that what Lois and Michelle have done is they've used everything that's probably as natural as it can be, with the exception of the bouillon. Read your labels on the bouillon. You'll see what kind of carbs are in there. I think there's very few carbs in that. Your carrots are going to have some carbohydrates just because they're that sweeter vegetable. But the parsnip, because you're not eating it, very, very few on that. And we all know that celery has almost no carbs. It is a vegetable, but it's going to have some carbohydrates. I do know that. And then the chicken is just pure protein. So in the words of Julia Child, bon appetit.